Welcome to another episode of the Embodied Union podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Lindsay.
And today we're going to talk about the art of authentic seduction, anticipation, the fuel source for like the
Arousal.
yumminess, the arousal that you really can play with when you are cultivating this embodied style of union relationship that we really advocate for.
Yeah, because it gets to be super fun. So let's jump straight in.
Well, I think because working with couples, one of the biggest pain points is intimacy gone flat.
Yeah.
Intimacy's gone flat. In the honeymoon, maybe it was a lot more effortless, and now it's just like, feels like libido's a mismatch. Like I know it's a common pain point, and I know for myself, years and years and years of feeling disheartened, disappointed in the bedroom, and just what a difference it can make when a couple know how to meet each other, and how also specifically for how a man can meet his woman.
Yeah, because I think, to be honest, because I work with men, I honestly feel like this is an area where a man can really improve the entire situation for all parties. You know, because I think we kind of come at this from the viewpoint of we treat women, this is men, I feel like think that women's turn on is the same as theirs. Like it should be the same, or it should be like it works the same way, and it really doesn't. It really doesn't, you know? So there's this, not that there's a mismatch, because we both know that once a woman is really like in her yumminess, there's almost like no force greater. You know?
She can be as ravenous, if not more, than a man. But
I would say more.
definitely agree, when we don't understand our own erotic system, now speaking for women, we can feel like we're a bit meh, it's a bit flat. Partner wants it more than I do, and women end up just feeling like they need to appease their partners, men feeling rejected, and yeah, it just doesn't have to be the case. When you do understand your own erotic system and you understand your partner's erotic system, which I think one of the biggest gifts of this relationship has been having a partner understand my erotic system.
Yes.
Understanding how to activate it, understanding, like, also not taking it personally when I move through waves. Like, as a woman, we go through waves with our hormones and desire, and it's just, yeah, I've had a really beautiful experience being with a man who just has a deeper understanding of a woman's authentic pleasure and her system.
Because I think one of the things here that I want to speak to is knowing that a man's cycle is a day, and knowing that his highest drive, desire point is first thing in the morning, and then it starts to peter off in the later at night. And I know that for women it's more like a 28-day cycle, you
Correct.
know? So it's like ours goes with the sun, women's goes with the moon. And by knowing this, it's knowing that, okay, there's going to be times in the month that are less, and there's going to be times in the month where it's more. And it's by knowing these kinds of things, it allows us as men to tune in and go, all right, the iron's hot, I'm going to initiate, I'm going to create something here, I'm going to, while we're in season, I'm going to take advantage of that.
I also think if one of the big pain points in relationship is men feeling rejected, then having an understanding of the woman's 28-day cycle, it's like, oh, it's not actually, potentially, it's not a me thing. This is a her thing, and how can I honor where she's at?
Yes. And then having the skill set of intimacy to know that at different times during the month, there's different ways to engage with your partner to get the ultimate result.
That is so true, and I just, what a piece of gold just that statement is, because, like, for example, in my cycle, ovulation, it looks very different. How you approach me, how you initiate with me, how you connect with me, how you touch me, like my body lights up to different things than, say, right before I bleed or during my bleed. It's like, if you know how to speak your partner's language, knowing that the language changes a few times in the month, then you're just in for a much more graceful experience.
I'm laughing because I have this experience of just like you, when you're ovulating, is like, you smell good, you're handsome. You know, it's like, I don't need to do anything. Like, I can just strut around and just like give you eyes, and that's enough. You're like, okay.
It's like the magnet. I
Yeah,
feel like a magnet
totally.
gets turned on, and then when I'm in my like more my luteal phase, or my autumn, or my winter, I'm getting ready to bleed, or I am bleeding. It's almost like, and this is so funny because you always call me out on it in such a loving way, but I will be like, oh, I don't know, like I'm a bit tired, or I feel a bit sensitive, or I don't know if I'm that interested. And you're like, babe, that's fine. Like, we're just gonna connect. And because you know how to speak my body's language, even when I come in with my, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
It's like, we'll see. And how quickly that can turn around.
Yeah.
But I also think that speaks to, not only do you know my body's language, you never come near me with pressure or expectation or an agenda, or the agenda is love and intimacy. And because I feel that permission to be in my, I don't know, or I'm in my head, whatever it is, that creates such a softening and relaxing, which opens me to the experience.
Yeah, and I think coming to this space, or like from the man's point of view, or learning this, is how can I take the expectation out? Because my understanding and what I've learned is, I spent years being super needy. I've spent years like asking my partner directly for sex, and it's like,
Can we do it? What about now?
oh God, like if I could say one thing,
What
is
a
like,
cock block.
never ask your partner, can we have sex? Not that we never, but it's like, being direct like that is not the way a woman thinks. I read a post recently where it was like, a woman thinks about sex maybe twice a month, you know? And it's not that they're not into it, it's more that women are more like inspired by the invitation of it. It's like alluring to it, or creating anticipation and creating the invitation towards it, that then their brain goes, oh, I feel
I
this.
so resonate with that, because it's like, oh, do I only want sex twice a month? Not necessarily, but maybe I feel like my desire to initiate comes on literally maybe twice a month, but you can inspire desire in me every day if you choose to, because you know how to.
Yes, and I think that's the point. It's not that women want it less, it's just women, it's not on their mind the same way that it is a man's, because this is
different.
like I talk to men all the time that, you know, say we think about it 700 times a day,
Wow.
or 70 times a day, or however many times a day it might pop into our minds. So it's like, we're already in the wanting. Everything's the wanting. A beautiful woman walks past and her hair looks amazing. It's like, huh, you know, or you wear something nice and I'm like, oh God, you know, it's like, it's there all the time. So it's, when it comes to initiating something, I've already been in the wanting. And if I don't have control over that, or if I have neediness around sex and needing it, I'm not in attunement with you. I'm actually only in attunement with my neediness and my needs being met.
And if you're already in the wanting, you're going to try and take me straight into the having, but I'm not necessarily in the wanting yet.
Yeah.
So this is where there's such a skill set that can be learned to bring your partner from being potentially in a quite neutral space. I'm not a yes, I'm not a no, I'm just like
Neutral.
in my energy, whatever I'm doing. And you're already in the wanting. So how do you bring me into the wanting?
Well,
this is the gap.
Yeah, this is the skill set. So to me, it's like, if a woman is like water, she'll take on whatever shape. So that's what I feel like with the neutrality. So if I then create the container or containment of intimacy, and I then draw you into there, it then creates the shape of intimacy. So that's the invitation. If I'm the masculine holding the frame, holding the container, it's like, I can just give you a look, or kiss you in public, or put my hand on your back, or stroke your arms, or whatever it might be, that's kind of like keeping you on simmer. It's like, you look really good, or I might say something inappropriate on purpose, you know, because I know that that's just like fishing for it, without neediness, and especially without needing it to go anywhere. It's like, this is the part that used to mess me up, was like, I would try. And if it wasn't working, it's like, I can't get this right. I would then fall into victim or fall into the trap of like, oh, giving up. But
Taking
now,
it personally.
yeah, and now it's more like, it's playful, gets to be fun. You know, my intention when I say something inappropriate or grab your butt or do something, wherever it might be, in public, at home, whatever, it's just, there's nothing next. I have no agenda with trying to make it go anywhere.
Well, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what might be more true, and for men in general and women, it's like there might be an agenda, there might be an expectation, but there's not an attachment to it.
True.
It's like, of course, there's like a goal of like, let's have a good time, but you're not attached to it. So if I don't buy in, or it just isn't a yes for me today, it's like, okay, cool, that's not for me to take personally, and we get to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I think that's really a really valid point and accurate, you know, is not having that there.
The attachment piece.
Yeah, not having the attachment. Because if I can be in the playfulness of it and be in the fun of it, then it gets to go anywhere it needs to or wants to. And I think this is the thing with playing with eros, or playing with like anticipation, or playing with intimacy, is it's happening 24/7. So it's not thinking about foreplay is happening just before we try and have sex.
All right, let's do the foreplay now.
Yeah,
No.
it's already happening. It's already been happening throughout the day with something that I've said, or I've carried something, or I've picked something up, or I've said something, or whatever I've been doing.
I think that's really true. Like, the energy of our relationship overall is very playful, sensual. Like, it is, our relationship is pretty much 24/7 foreplay, and it's not always erotic, but it's sweet, it's sensual, it's kindness, it's care, it's attunement.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really stop.
Never.
It doesn't ever stop.
Yeah, and I think I was getting to something else, but I think this is probably a good time to talk about just having the glass be clean. You know, is that we don't have water under the bridge between us. And
Unspoken words, any unhealed hurts, that kind of stuff.
Upset, yeah, anything like that that's stopping. Because I think for so many, in particular men that are wanting to initiate or wanting to have more intimacy in their lives and feel like there's a lack, there could just be a lot of water under the bridge that needs to happen. And no amount of buying something sweet or doing something over the top, it means you have to do so much extra rather than just clean up.
And I feel like I can speak for women. We're very sensitive, like, we're subtle creatures, like, we feel everything. So if you and I have something that's not quite resolved, or I feel a bit hurt about something, or I resent you in some way, if there's anything that's not quite sorted out, I'm carrying that in my body, I'm carrying it energetically. And as a woman who is very energetic and sensitive when it comes to intimacy as well, it's like that heaviness that I'm carrying, it gets in the way. It gets in the way, so I'm really not actually available to explore my pleasure potential and have the intimacy I know is possible if there's something that we need to clean up. So it's like, I think it's such a valid point that couples, when they're not having sex, it's like, let's try and have more sex. It's like, well, why are you not, for one? And is there emotional baggage that needs to be cleaned up first? Because there's no way around it.
Well, it's kind of like trying to have sex in a dirty bed. It's like, a woman's going to know that. She's going to feel it a mile off. And if a man's not good at attunement or holding space, like, for me, I can tell. If I go to initiate with you, I can tell if something's off. I can feel it a mile away as well. And usually then becomes a conversation. And I think for most couples, I think it's really important that they're having these conversations outside of the bedroom to clear it up, to clean it up, to clean up the relationship, such that it's not an agenda to go, well, let's clean this up so we can have sex after. Because by the time you finish cleaning everything up, it's like you need time to let the dust settle.
This is why we always say couples once a week minimum are having sit-down conversations around, like, what's come up for you this week? Has there been anything that you've not voiced? Have you been triggered about something that's not quite cleaned up? Like you and I do a clean as you go policy, but other couples, they work separately, they might not have the time and space, but like once a week, very minimum, sitting down, what needs to be shared? I think it's really good. This is a Kiminami. This is where we got this from, by the way. She's the OG, but the way she speaks about cleaning the glass, it's imagine that there is a pane of glass in between yourself and your partner, and for every unspoken word or unhealed hurt, there's dirt on the glass, till eventually you actually can't see your partner through the glass. So when you can't see your partner, you can't be present or curious. There's no room for intimacy. So we're constantly in a process of cleaning our side of the glass by revealing all the stuff that's happening inside of us that can potentially create like blocks to intimacy.
Yeah, so I think, so we've spoken to, cleaning the glass, like cleaning the barriers to intimacy. And then going from there, it's then creating, well, what do we do with this such that it's not on autopilot? Or I think one of the biggest things I've learned in the last couple of years around like feminine, like being a really good partner and lover to my feminine partner who's more energetic, is taking the goal away from moving towards penetration. Like it never has to go there as a way. So it's almost like the wanting is nearly, or if not better than the having, and having that. So I think I would like to ask you around that, like, what is that like for you, or what is the experience of sitting in like the wanting?
Well, for me, having had so many years of not understanding my own system, not understanding that I'm energetic and that I really love anticipation and like to be in the wanting, always just rushing straight to the having, always like performance-based sex and saying yes when I'm a no, like that's just created so much contraction in my body. So now to be with a partner who understands that we can slow it right down, we don't have to move to penetration, we can just play in energy, we can create energy, we build arousal, we build energy, and then I get to sit in that. And I've just not had that experience before. So it feels like a relief, like the relief of knowing that we don't have to necessarily go anywhere. It takes all of the pressure off, which makes me open to the experience. It makes me so much more receptive. Just knowing that there's no goal. The goal's in the bin.
Yeah, the goallessness of lovemaking that can happen. Once you realize this, like for me it was, to be a good lover would be, there's a metric to it that I'd never really thought about, in the past would be, and I think most people would probably agree, is, did my partner come? Like sex equals penetration. That's one way of like, did we have sex? Yes or no? And then, a marker of how good it was is how many orgasms did she have or did I have? And it's like, is that good?
And when that's the metric that's playing out from my experience in the past, because that's exactly what I bought into, I can't tell you how many orgasms I faked, because I knew that that's what my partner needed to feel like he'd done a good job, and it meant that it could end. Like, okay, that marks sex complete. Orgasm means done. So, and I know I speak for so many women, we fake orgasms because we're basing our intimacy on that metric. So when that metric goes in the bin, it's like we can be more authentic.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's knowing that there's so many variations of orgasm as well to have, and most people aren't exploring all the options. It's kind of like, well, what we do is we go from this to this to this to this to this, and then we're done, and that's it for the week or this time. And it's
see you again in 3 days.
Yeah, it's like the same thing over and over, and it's like, where's the play? Where's the mystery? Where's the anticipation? Who's creating it? What are we learning? How are we doing this different, And speaking into it as well. It's like afterwards, in the aftercare phase, it's like, what did you like? What did you not like?
I love speaking about our intimacy. I feel like the first question I always ask you is like, how was your orgasm?
Usually my mouth and face doesn't work at that point.
And we talk about it. And I just think that intimacy, it's taboo just anyway, but like in your relationship, like take the taboo out of it. It can be such a joyous, playful experience that you guys can have without pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the other points that we want to
What I really want to ask you, because I think this is the gap we were alluding to earlier, is we have men typically who are already in the wanting. They think about sex 700 times a day. They're in the wanting, so it's very easy for them to move straight into the having. Then we have a woman, and I can't speak for all women, but myself, energetic, sensitive, maybe just feeling like just getting on with my life, working, feeling a bit more neutral. How do you take a partner, you're in the wanting, how do you move me from my space of neutrality into the wanting so we can go to the having together? Like, what are the fuel sources for arousal that you play with? Because this is the tangible tools that men and women can use in relationship.
Yeah, I think for me it's like, well, specifically, and I'm doing this masterclass on it coming up around anticipation, is like creating a scene, creating an opportunity or an invitation, like me giving some forethought as to like, that would be a cool thing to do, like going to somewhere and bringing something with it, like creating a scenario of like, this could happen, or I'm gonna lay out a blanket here and bring some oil or bring some of this. And not to say that sex is gonna happen, but it's just an invitation to be in the exploring. And I think setting that up as well, which we've made this agreement, and I think it could be powerful for other couples, is like allowing our intimacy not to have to go towards sex every time. It can be different. The other things is around just like touch and being sensual. So most people know about the 5 love languages. So it's like, it could be words of affirmation, it could be just like touch throughout the day, eye contact, presence, I think is a really big one. So it's just making sure that when we're in a moment together, that I'm very present. Present with my eyes, present with my breath, present with my kissing, present with my touch. It's not frivolous, it's not empty, you know? So then there's a strong amount of attention being brought on it. And
I can definitely say that when you touch me with presence, when you look at me with presence, kiss me with presence, like 100%, 150% presence, more often than not, that will activate something in my system. And when you come to me and you're distracted or in your head, or maybe your eyes are over here, or I can feel it. I can feel it a mile away. Like presence really it can sometimes activate eros instantly inside my body when I'm being contained by your presence.
Yeah. Knowing the erotic blueprints as well for me would be that, you know, like mine's more preference towards sensual. So it's like, I think about being sensual. So that's slowness, softness, mood, music, things like that. So whether it's playing nice music, making sure that my hygiene is good, things like small things that there isn't barriers to it. It's like, I purposely put nice beard oil on and then go and give you a hug and you're like, oh God, you know? So it's like, it's not an accident. I think it's just being like intentional around it. And I think one of the ways if couples are in a long-term relationship is like, how do you continue to court your partner? Just thinking it like that. Am I courting her? Am I girlfriending her? Am I treating her like it's our first couple of dates? Like, are you thinking about your partner like that? Are you thinking about it during the day, about maybe picking some flowers? Like yesterday, I picked up all the frangipanis and just brought them into your room. You didn't ask, you know, it's just something that I thought would be sweet. So I
definitely feel like we're in the energy, like 2 years together, it's not a blip of, like it is a blip of time, but it's also not, it's not short, it's not long, right? But I definitely feel like at this point, lots of couples have gone into complacency.
Yeah.
And I feel like the effort hasn't stopped and makes a big difference.
Yeah, so I think it's like knowing that relationship, it's like anything. What you put in is what you can get out. But you got to make sure that what you're putting in is what your partner likes. So it might be what you like. This is where I think couples and people fall down in relationship, it's like, well, I'm doing all of this that I'm not being appreciated for. Well, maybe your partner doesn't like what you bring. Maybe you got to be more attentive to what they like. Like, I know for you, it's like, I know the things that you like, so I do those things, you know? And it's just making sure that we're being present enough to our partner's desires and intimacy and eros, because that is the skill. Knowing how to turn our partner on is something that it's a part of a relationship. You know, Damien Boyle talked about it as being like the meta skill. You know, we say relationship is a skill, it's lots of skills, but it's like, these are the things. So whether it's a date night that you might want to set up, or it's flowers each week, or it's some cute treat that you bring back. It's like, when was the last time you brought your partner a little sweet treat, or something that's like, doesn't have to be much. Maybe you just want to pick some wild flowers and give it to her, or write her a sweet note and leave it somewhere. It's like all these things to kind of go, I'm thinking about you. I'm there with you, whatever that is. Because I think about it like, so women love fantasy books, right? They love reading
love fantasy books.
Fairy porn. So for women, their arousal takes more than just direct physical contact.
Definitely.
You know? So like, if a woman is energetic and you just send her a picture of your cock, that's not good. That just misses the mark.
Maybe during ovulation.
Maybe. I would probably still say no. And so it's just like, it completely misses the mark, you know? It's being more attentive to and being in more tune with what your partner likes and dislikes and wants. And this is why we're asking for feedback when we do make love with each other. It's like, what worked, what didn't, and try not to do the same thing every time. I think that's really important so it doesn't become stale.
Well, I think when you come to lovemaking with a level of presence, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, it might look the same, it might look totally different, but because you're present to the moment, there is only this moment. It can't possibly be exactly the same. So it's not about, okay, what's something I can do differently this time? It's like, how can I come into this experience with so much presence that it's almost like a meditation?
Yeah.
And like, that is what curates newness and novelty and mystery, because you're just here for the moment to unravel moment by moment.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of couples I know, when intimacy goes stale and flat, it's like, how can I create novelty? How can we introduce a sex toy, or have a threesome, or go to a swingers party, or just do something? And sure, those things can add some spice and are novelty, but it doesn't need to be that complicated. You can introduce novelty just by being so frickin' present with each other.
Yeah.
And like, you don't have to go anywhere to do that or spend any money. It's a fuel source. Presence is a fuel source that's available on tap for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. You know, I think I remember one of the most intimate moments for both of us was we went to a workshop and we wrote down, what do we want? And what do we see for each other? And those sorts of things. And I just remember like speaking it out and like crying. It was like, oh God, it felt really young. But then it was like, felt really good to share.
I actually think that's a really important thing to add. I know for myself, whenever we have very emotionally connecting conversation, and I feel your presence and I feel your emotional intelligence, and you're sharing with me what you want and your fears and your desires and your your dreams for us, and you're looking at me, and it's just, I feel that activate my body. So couples that are trying to create more intimacy and just trying to go straight to the deed, let's just have sex, it's like, are you talking about your lives? And the trap can be thinking, well, we've been together 20 years, we know everything that there is to know. It's like, that's bullshit. Like, sit down, discuss your values. What do you want? Like, what can you be in the creation of together?
I agree, and that's, you know, these are some of the aspects of like, what do we do to bring ourselves together to create this? So,
do you want to speak a little bit into anticipation and how because we're saying that creating, as a woman, an energetic, sensitive woman, one of the ways you move me into the wanting is through utilizing like anticipation, right? So I know how you do that. Do you want to speak into it?
Yeah, I think anticipation for me was something that I had no idea about. no idea about. And I kind of knew that that's what my partner liked, but I still didn't know how to cultivate it, if that makes sense. And I think it was because in trying to be a good lover and trying to do a good job, I would be not present in the doing.
Yes.
So that hurt me and hurt my intimacy. And it was also that not knowing how to create intimacy kind of had me a bit frozen as well. So I would be if I'm trying to get it right, I would just do what works. And I wouldn't be thinking about the times that we're not together or apart and how am I creating this desire or the deep pull towards intimacy for later. Because I think this part, it's a bit hard to describe in like a short frame, but it's, how can I describe it?
Anticipation?
Yeah.
Can I describe how you curate it for me?
Yeah, let's go.
So it's like the thought of it. It's the where are we going next? It's the what are you gonna do? It's the almost. So what creates so much anticipation for me can be like, you'll almost touch me. You'll give me lots of presence through eye contact and your mouth will be as close as it can be, but you don't quite kiss me. It's like, I want you to, I want to, I think we're going to, but you're just holding off a little bit. So my body's like, thinks we're going somewhere and then it doesn't happen. It's like when you'll touch me, say through a sheet, it's not like direct touch, but it's like almost touch. It's like we're almost doing something. Or you'll go to take a piece of my clothing off, or maybe you'll pull a strap down on my top and then you'll pull it back up. And it's like, it makes my system glitch because I have so much conditioning around what sex looks like and okay, we do this, then this, then this. And having you kind of fuck with that whole system, it's like, where are we going? Oh, we're not. It's like, that forces me into presence. So that's a hack in itself. But that creates anticipation. And I think that's such a skill. I've not had a man meet me in that way because they've always tried to lead me straight to the having. Whereas there's a level of patience that you play with that creates anticipation, and it's medicine.
Yeah, okay. So delayed gratification, I think, is one of the things that we have to have control of. Like for myself, if I'm creating anticipation in you, it's I need to be not letting my neediness drive this intimacy forward, you know? So it's basically, how do I keep mine in check so I can bring you up to where I am, or if not further. Like one of my favorite things to do is to make you really turned on and then not do anything with that, you know? Because then it allows you to sort of build up and be in the wanting, and having you in the wanting is great, right where I want you to be. As like, I think every man that's listening to this wants their partner to be in the wanting.
Yeah.
So the longer we can leave her and have her in the wanting, the more alive and the more eros and everything is building, it's better. Because if we, and this is even a hack, is if you build your partner up into the wanting and then always then take it to the having, even that isn't necessarily a good thing because they haven't been sitting in the wanting for long enough. It's like, it's okay to have them there. They're not going to just drop back into feeling neutral again very quickly. They'll actually, the way that I in my experience, a feminine's like eros charges up, it doesn't go away. So it goes up and it stays there. And it goes up and then it stays there. And it goes up and then it stays there.
Well, it's the same when I'm cultivating my own eros through self-pleasure. Like if I'm not doing self-pleasure at all, like we said earlier, maybe I like honestly think about like fucking, maybe not that often. But if I'm constantly cultivating my own sexual energy, then it's like I'm in eros more often. My mind is going there more often. I'm more in the wanting. So I can do that through self-pleasure practice, or I can do that, my partner can help curate that with me, and yeah, it's a beautiful experience.
So I think, creating the anticipation is like creating misdirection sometimes. So it's whether it's, you know, you just not knowing what's going to happen next.
That keeps me present.
Very present.
If I think I know where we're going, often that puts me into my head.
Yes, because it's like, oh, this is going to happen next. Yeah, I get that. No, I'm not going to do that. So, yes, misdirection I think is a good thing. Keeping it playful, not having the goal of penetration being the goal. It's like turn on is the goal. That's really, like, for me, that's all it ever is. It's like, if you're begging, then that's exactly where I want you
won.
to. Yeah, like that's it. That to me is the orgasm. I think for most people, I just realized that then. It's like, for most people, it's like, did you come? It's not a question I ask. It's more, I know for a fact you're turned on. And that is the win. For me, that is the win.
That's honestly the win for me as well. Like, having spent so much of my adult life not turned on and struggling with intimacy, I'm never chasing orgasm. It's like when I feel myself alive and activated and just so on, I feel like I am in orgasm, I am in ecstasy, I am in bliss, and that is better than any momentary peak experiences. Don't get me wrong, orgasms are amazing, but it's like being in the wanting and having that extended, that is, again, it's the medicine.
Yeah, and I think this also goes into, and I'm not sure if we've spoken about on earlier podcasts, we probably have, but it's like the peak and the valley orgasm as well, knowing the difference. And also that you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to stop when it comes to like intimacy and building it up. Like, to me, that creates a lot of anticipation, as if we're building up to something, not in sex, but just building up eros and building up our connection, and then I stop or we do something completely different. It's like, oh, where's it going now?
This is why 3-hour sex dates work, because we're not fucking the whole time. It's just like, even if maybe we won't even at all, but it's 3 hours of extended play. This is why sex weekends. It's not just sex 24/7, but it's like intimacy 24/7. It's definitely stop, pause, snack, jump in the pool, come back, play, read some poems, massage. Like, we can extend it. That definitely creates anticipation.
Yeah, because I think it's just like what usually happens is, you know, the foreplay happens, the going down on each other happens potentially, and then like the penetration happens, and then once the penetration started, it doesn't stop until someone finishes, you know?
Typically.
And typically the man. And then it's like, oh, well, then she didn't, so then maybe a toy's introduced or whatever, and then okay, both of us can't, now we're complete. No, you know, like it gets to be something where a man's allowed to go soft for a bit, and maybe soft penetration happens or something else happens, or it goes into something completely different, like as far as it could be pressure, like, you know,
anything,
contact play, it could be anything, rope play, whatever it might be, or it could be, like you say, it could just be laying together and just looking at the sky and stroking hair and just relaxing together, and like letting that happen, because otherwise numbness can happen, pressure can happen, either partner can get in their heads about lasting long enough, or the pressure of orgasming. It's like, if you feel pressure or you feel something, it's just like, let's just stop, let's just do something else, you know?
Yeah, having the capacity to pivot, pause, redirect, appreciate that.
And I think that's really that's it.
I think that you should speak into your masterclass, because it really, if a couple or a man specifically is listening into this and it's like, okay, cool, thanks guys, how? Give me more of the how, give me more of the tangible tools, give me more. You are giving exactly that with your masterclass next week, aren't you?
Yeah, so I think it's, can't quite remember the dates.
It's the 29th.
Is it? 29th, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be running a masterclass for men called The Art of Anticipation. So around 90 minutes plus a Q&A. I'm going to be dropping some bombs in there for the men that really want to level up their skill set around anticipation, around playfulness, and it's not to be missed. It's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing.
I speak to so many women who struggle in relationship with their partner feeling needy and rejected, they feeling pressure. Like if that is your relationship, if that's the dynamic that's become too familiar, I know that you have so much gold to offer that specific man, that specific couple. So where can they get information? Through Instagram?
Yep, at Linzey B, and probably at I am Charlie Hannah as well.
I am Charlie S. Hannah. You can reach out to either of us and we'll get you a link. It's
Embodied
exciting.
Union will probably give it a share there as well.
Embodied Union Instagram.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, as always, please shoot them through. We love this conversation. It's a great conversation. Have this conversation with your partner.
Yep. If you're a woman listening and you want to buy it for your man, some have already done that, please
So great.
get them to this masterclass. I would love to have them. I would love to support more couples having a thriving love life that gets to be fun.
I think that's it.
Love you, Greta.
Thank you guys. Love you. Mwah.